Hey guys, welcome back. My name's Adam, your friendly Sasquatch, and today we're doing a quick review on Olight Seeker 3 Pro. And this is a super bright 4200 lumen light that I think would be great for outdoor heavy use, camping, hiking, and anything where you need a ton of floody light. And long run times. One of the huge benefits of a larger light like this is its long run time. So we'll get into all those details in just a little bit. But first up, let's take a look at what you actually get in the box when you order one of these things. First, you'll get the Seeker 3 Pro itself. A USB-A to MCC3 magnetic charging port. It just snaps right on the back for convenient charging. And a holster. And this is kind of a desert tan holster. It has a belt loop on the back, a nice strong ring, and then the flap itself is a actual latch over something like Velcro or something like that. So I like having a latch instead of the Velcro. I just never been a big fan of Velcro, but it is a simple push button release. And then the light fits nice and snugly in there. It won't come out even without the latch closed, but for more secure carry, you can lock it up and then attach it to your pack. So overall, super nice package. And of course, the obligatory user's manual / safety manual, which you don't need because you're watching this video. You'll know everything there is to know about this light. The rechargeable battery for this light does come pre-installed. It's a 21,700 cell that has 5,000 milliamp hours of storage capacity. To install the battery, it goes into the back and then the tail cap screws right on. You will need to take some plastic off the ends of the battery. They do put kind of the safety tabs in there for shipping. So when you first get the light, it's probably not going to come on because the plastic needs to be removed from the end of the cell. In the bottom of the box, Olight even remembers to tell you thank you for making a purchase. So that's everything in the box, so we can get rid of that. Let's go ahead and focus on the actual light itself. Alright, so that's everything that comes in the box. Let's take a look at the actual size and weight of this Olight with the battery installed. The length is 5.2 inches or 132 millimeters. The diameter of the head is 1.38 inches or 35 millimeters. And the diameter of the body is 1.1 inches or 28 millimeters. Overall, the light weighs 7.06 ounces or 200 grams. So how's this compared to some of Olight's other offerings? Well, let's take a look. First up, we have the Olight Warrior 3. And this is a nice size EDC light. It's a little bit slimmer than the Seeker 3 Pro, but the Warrior 3 is longer and has a sharp strike bezel on the end. Next up, we have the Olight Warrior Mini, and as you can see, this light is significantly smaller than this one, but it's not as powerful and doesn't have the same runtime as the Seeker 3 Pro. Finally, we have the Olight Baton, and you might be laughing at me for putting this out here because it is so much smaller than the Seeker 3, but the Olight Baton does have 1,200 lumens of output, so it's, for an EDC light, pretty darn good. So I put these lights out for a couple of reasons. First is if you're looking at the Seeker 3 Pro, I want you to see how much bigger it is than the other lights. Secondly, is if you do have the Baton, the Warrior Mini, or Warrior 3, it gives you a pretty good size comparison to what the Seeker 3 Pro is going to be. So this review is about the Seeker 3, so let's get the other lights off the table and dive into the details of this particular light. In addition to the obvious size features, the Olight Seeker 3 is all aluminum construction, which is always awesome. It does have a rubberized grip material here, which feels super durable, but it's going to work great if you have gloved hands or something like that. It does have these nice ridges in here for your fingers, so it won't slip out of your hand very easily when wet. So for wet conditions and stuff like that, this is going to be an excellent light. The light's been drop tested to 1.5 meters. I'm sure it can take a lot more than that, but that's what Olight says it's been tested to. The light is also IPX8 rated, which means it's waterproof down to 1 meter. Okay, so that's everything on the exterior of the light. Let's go ahead and take a look at how this light actually works. So first up is, you'll notice when I press the power button, nothing happens. And that's because they have this little wheel around the power button. In order to take the light out of lockout mode, you have to rotate the wheel at least 90 degrees. So we'll rotate it, and you'll see the light comes on. Now, to turn the light off, you just hit the power button, the light goes off. And the light is not in lockout mode until the light has been off for 30 seconds. And that's automatic. There's nothing you can do to change that. That's just the way this light is. Some people are going to like it, some people aren't. So yeah, so that's the lockout mode. So to get into Moonlight, we just press and hold on the power button, and that puts it into our first mode. And you can barely see it. It's just 5 lumens, which will last for 15 days, which is a really long time. But again, it's only 5 lumens. It's not super bright. To step it up to the next power setting, we're going to press and hold. And then that puts it into 50 lumens, which has 55.5 hours of runtime, which is over 2 days. So that's really good. For 50 lumens, I'm not complaining. Press and hold again. The light goes to the 300 lumens mode, and this will run for 640 minutes, so 10.5 hours roughly. So now we're talking, this 300 lumens is extremely usable for hiking, backpacking, camping, around the house, really anything. So to have over 10.5 hours of runtime at 300 lumens is amazing. So I think the 300 lumens is a setting a lot of people are going to use because it's bright enough to use for a lot of things, especially around the house or a campsite. But it's got over 10 hours of runtime, which is excellent. Now if we press and hold, we now are in high mode, which is 1,200 lumens, and it will run 135 minutes or over 2 hours in 1,200 lumens, which is great. So this is another setting that I think a lot of people are going to use a lot because it runs indefinitely. It doesn't overheat at the 1,200 lumens mode. And with over 2 hours of runtime, you won't have to be very conservative using it in this mode. The final mode, if you double click, is the turbo mode. And this is 4,200 lumens, which is just ridiculous. When we get this outside, you'll see just how bright this thing truly is. Now, when you're in turbo mode, the light does have a proximity sensor. So if I put my hand in front of here, you'll see the light automatically goes back down to high mode. If I remove the hand, it goes back into turbo mode. So that's kind of useful. It keeps the light from overheating in your bag or something like that. Now let's say you want to override this. Say you're driving around in your car and it's picking up the car window, or it's raining or it's foggy out and you don't want to be in low mode. You really do need that extra light. All you have to do is double press the turbo button and the light will stay in the turbo mode even though my hand is in front of it. Now for strobe mode, we just triple click this button. So seizure warning, that's strobe mode. So very obnoxious, exactly what you expect for a strobe. Turning it off. So looking at the business end here, you'll see that aligned with the power button, there's a teeny hole in the lens here. That's the proximity sensor we were just talking about. And we have 4 high-powered LEDs here. Because there's 4 instead of 1 like we have in the Warrior here, this Warrior is going to be more of a throwing light. It's going to really reach out there and touch something a long ways away, where the Seeker 3 is going to be more of a floodlight. It's going to have a much wider and floodier beam. So I'll do a side-by-side comparison when we get these things outside. Before we move on, there's a couple quick settings I do want to talk about with the power button. When we turn it on, it will come back to the last used mode. So if I leave the light in high, turn it off, turn it back on, it will come back in high. But if I have the light in Moonlight mode, turn it off, and I turn it back on, it will come right back on into Moonlight mode. So it'll remember what mode you used last, which is convenient because if you like that 300 lumens mode we were looking at earlier, or you always want it to come on in high mode, you can do that by just turning the light off in the last used mode. One note is when it is in turbo mode, you turn the light off, turn it back on, it will come back in high mode. It will not automatically come on to turbo mode until you double click the button. Another feature I want to talk about is the wheel around the power button itself. If you kind of gently scroll the wheel up, the light will get brighter until the indicator light here blinks, showing it's in full brightness. And if you scroll the wheel down, the light will continue to get dimmer until you see the indicator light on the left here blink, showing that it's in its minimum brightness. It's an interesting trick. I don't know that it does much for me, but some people may want to have that flexibility, especially between the medium mode, which is 300 lumens, and the high mode, which is 1,200 lumens. If you want something kind of in between, you can dial it right in to your preference. Looking at the button here, if we press the power button, you'll see that there's 4 LEDs on the right-hand side. Each represents 25% state of charge. On the left here, there's also 4 LEDs. You might not be able to see it in my bright studio lights, but the bottom one represents low mode, the medium, then high, and then turbo mode, so you know what mode you're in. You saw earlier the MCC3 magnetic 2-amp charger. Super handy, just snaps right on, and the light takes about 1.5 to 2.5 hours to charge, depending on what USB-A port you plug it into, a 1-amp or 2-amp charger. Now at the base of the charger, you'll see a clear piece of plastic around the cable attaching the magnetic piece. That will glow red when the light is charging, and it will glow green when the light has completed charging. When you're done, you just pop it right off and you're good to go. Okay, so that's all the details of this light and how it works. Let's take it outside so you can see how bright this light is and what the color and the beam throw of it are. Okay guys, welcome to the testing area, aka my backyard. So let's see what the Seeker 3 Pro looks like on the Moonlight mode. So I'll just press and hold to get into that 5 lumens mode. And as you can see, there's not much to see. But if I put my hand directly in front of the camera, it will illuminate things that are directly in front of you, such as a map or something you're trying to read. So that's the Moonlight mode. Let's go ahead and kick it up to the low mode. The low mode here is 50 lumens. And as you can see, you can kind of see the ground a little bit. Might be kind of hard to see that back wall. We'll see how it shows up. But you know, good for putting keys in the front door, unlocking your car, something like that, but not super bright if you want to reach out and touch something. Press and hold. Now we're at the medium mode, and this is 300 lumens, and this is very usable. If you're walking around a parking lot, a sidewalk, something like that, this is totally usable. And remember, the runtime at this brightness is just tremendous. Let's go ahead and kick up the high mode, which is 1,200 lumens. And as you can see, this is just ridiculous. The entire backyard basically is lit up, the entire wall, and this is where you can really see the floodiness of the beam. Looking at the back wall there, you don't see a really tight hotspot like you did on my Warrior review. It's just a really floody kind of aerial light, which works great. The downside of that is it's not going to be able to reach out as far and touch things, but that's what the next mode, the turbo mode, is for. So kicking this up to turbo mode by double pressing, here is our turbo mode, and it is just insanely bright. It might be a little hard to tell just how bright it is because the camera is going to be a little overwhelmed, but basically my entire back wall there is lit up as bright as the sun. The side of the house, the ground, I mean, it's just a really bright light. This is a little bit whiter light than some of the other Olights. It's not quite as yellow, but it does not have any of that kind of tingy blue that a lot of people don't like. Let's go ahead and see what the strobe mode looks like. So seizure warning. There's strobe mode, and it's just completely obnoxious. Full 4,200 lumens strobing. It could blind an entire group with this light. So really bright strobe mode works great. So again, Moonlight, low, medium, high, low, medium, high, and then with the double press, turbo. So there you have it. Let's take this light back inside. All right, guys, there you have it. So that's the light and kind of what it looks like and what it can do. And what's kind of my takeaway on this particular light? The pros are, you would get this light because it's just bright. I mean, with the 4 super bright LEDs in there, 4,200 lumens, and the ridiculous run times, there's a lot to like about this light. It has a pretty simple UI. There's not a lot of weird button sequence presses or anything like that. It's pretty much just, spin the wheel to unlock, press it, press and hold to make it brighter, double press for turbo. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, super simple UI. I do like that about this light. The memory mode is nice. If you turned it off while it was in the high setting, turn it back on, it's still in the high setting. If you turned it off while it was in low mode, it comes back on low mode. So the memory setting is kind of handy. And then the other thing I really like about this light is just the grips. It kind of has these rubberized finger grooves, which is going to be great for wet weather use, or if you're wearing gloves or it's really cold outside. This is going to be a great kind of all-weather or all-purpose light. What are some of the cons? There's not a lot of cons about this particular light. One con I would have is it doesn't have a pocket clip. It is a little bit big for pocket carry, but I do like a pocket clip. Sometimes it's nice to clip onto your pack or something like that. So no pocket clip with this particular light. So not a lot on the cons list. I mean, this is a super capable, super bright light that I think you should seriously consider. If you're an outdoorsman, you go hiking at night, you go camping, you want a super bright light around the house for the backyard when things go bump at night. Really, this light, anytime you need a floody, super bright light that can still reach out and touch something. And not only is it bright, it has super long run times, meaning you're not going to have to charge it up very often. But when you do need to charge it, you don't need to go buy a bunch of expensive batteries. You just charge it up and go. My quick and dirty review of the Olight Seeker 3 Pro. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, hit that like button below. It helps the channel out a lot. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you're the first to be notified when I release new videos just like this one. Cheers!
Later.